היי, ערב טוב לכל מי שכאן. אנחנו ודים וספיר, מנהלים את קהילת האמזונים, למי שעדיין לא מכיר. אנחנו כחלק מהפעילות שלנו מארחים אנשים מומחים בתחומם שהתארחו אצלנו, והפעם אנחנו מארחים את אמה, שהיא אלופה בכל מה שקשור לכתיבת תוכן לאמזון, ואמה הסכימה לבוא להתארח אצלנו. היא תדבר באנגלית. היא עכשיו משדרת אלינו
מיזורי.
מיזורי, נכון. אז שיהיה ערב טוב ומעניין, בהצלחה, אמה.
fun.
Erev Tov. I'm sorry that I will not be speaking in Hebrew today, though I did live in Israel for 3 years. העברית שלי זה לא כל כך טוב לדבר בדברים כאלה. אז let's get started. Okay. So we're going to be talking all about listing optimization today, which is particularly relevant as we get closer and closer to Q4, but it's really something that you should be thinking about always, because your listing is your salesperson. It's really one of the few things that you have to communicate with your customers, to establish that relationship, and to make them eager to buy from you. So it's really, really important to make sure that your listing is exactly where it needs to be in order to elevate your opportunity of making that sale. So my name's Emma Shermer-Tamir. I'm the co-founder of Marketing by Emma. That gentleman standing to the left of me is my husband, Erez, and we started Marketing by Emma together. He is my business partner. Since then, we've worked with people all over the world, helping them grow their e-commerce businesses through Amazon listings, through website copy, and other marketing, writing like that. Something I want to mention before I get into the meat of my listing is I really want to make this conversation as valuable as possible for all of you that are here. So if you have questions, please write them at any time. You don't have to wait until the end of the presentation. And Sapir or Vadim will interrupt me and let me know what your questions are so that we make sure that we address them when they are fresh. So when we're talking about Amazon and really anything online, you have to have an understanding of SEO in addition to great marketing. So your SEO, your keywords that you're using are really forming the skeleton of your Amazon listing and are a vital part of being successful. So on Amazon, that SEO algorithm that you're needing to satisfy is Amazon's A9 algorithm. So I see a lot of people that when they do their keyword research, they're not necessarily thinking about all of the factors that they need to be considering in order to give them the best opportunity possible for generating the type of traffic that you need to be generating. And your keywords are really where that all begins. So if we're looking at this example, this is a survival tool. It's, I think, a relatively small tool that has a bunch of different tools within it. But if you look at this example here, you'll see that they've stuffed a bunch of birthday gift related keywords at the very beginning of the title. And your title is an incredibly important tool for your SEO. However, you have to also understand what each part of a listing is meant to do in helping move the sale along. And by putting these keywords where they've put them, it's made it so that it's confusing for the customer about what this product actually is. And if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see that when it truncates and when you're looking at it on mobile, you hardly see anything about the product at all. Almost all of the title that's visible is just about this unique birthday gifts for men, dad, and husband. So this is a little bit of an extreme case scenario, but you really want to make sure that when you're doing your keyword research for the front end, that you're thinking about what words make sense to use in a customer-facing space. So people are going to be reading these keywords, and you need to figure out what words are going to be able to fit into a title and into your bullets and into your description in a way that won't take away from the understanding of what your product is. But that's not the only thing that you need to be mindful of. So if we look at the first bullet here, you'll see all these underlined, red underlines are different gift-related keywords that this seller has chosen to use. And they're using their first bullet for all of this, which your first bullet is a critical place to really communicate what your product is and the main benefit that it's bringing to your customers. And instead, what they're doing is talking all about gifting. They're not talking about why this is such a great gift. They're just telling us that it's a great gift for a bunch of various different situations, from Christmas to Valentine's Day to Father's Day. And it looks very sloppy, it's confusing, and it's really going to be a turnoff to a lot of customers. So you want to be thinking about, as you're doing your keyword research, dig a little bit deeper, and beyond just looking at your keywords and trying to decide whether they'll fit into the copy of the listing itself, you also want to be mindful that you're not just going after the highest volume keywords and stopping there. I see a lot of times when people are doing their keyword research, they'll go to a tool like Helium 10 or Jungle Scout or Viral Launch, and they'll just take the first 30, 50 words that pop up, and they don't do any more investigation. And that is problematic for a few reasons. One being that you may not have the most relevant words for your product. So you may be having words that are very general and not necessarily specific enough to describe your product in particular. But two, a lot of times those really high volume words are going to be incredibly competitive. So they'll be very difficult to rank on and very expensive to rank on. And so you want to be digging in a little bit deeper and see where you really have a competitive opportunity that's not going to be too expensive, that's not going to be too highly competitive, and then you can leverage that to eventually start to compete on some of those higher volume search terms as well. And what I really love is when you go after some more medium and longer tail keywords, so phrases that are 5, 7 words long, a lot of times what you can do is you can find really great keywords that are kind of a 2-for-1. So they have those higher volume, shorter term keywords embedded within them. So you're getting the shorter term and the medium or long term keyword all with one phrase. So those are really, really great. And lastly, you want to be sure that you're not overusing keywords. So a lot of people take the perspective that nobody reads, and so it doesn't really matter, and you can just put as many keywords as possible, and that's all that's important. And it's not true that people don't read, but also when you do that, this is what it looks like. It looks very jumbled and confusing and messy, and it also looks really lazy and sloppy. Like, let's look at the last sentence of the first bullet here. Whether Christmas, holiday, Father's Day, birthday, Valentine's Day, or anniversary, they could update this seasonally to reflect whether Christmas is coming, and so they want to make it more fitting to the Christmas holidays, and then update that as it transitions into Valentine's Day terrain and so on. But instead, they've taken this approach of just putting all of them there, and it just is not very customer friendly. So here's an example of what I would encourage creating. All of the underlines are keywords. So you see that they're still incorporating a variety of different keywords here. However, it's doing so in a way that is thoughtful, that's helping to communicate what the product is and those key details that are so important. And then in the bullet, really focusing on what that underlying benefit of having a tool like this is, rather than just trying to convince people that it's a great gift without actually telling them why it's a great gift. So Vadim had a great question, and I thought that this may be an appropriate time to incorporate it, because he's asking whether it's necessary to have a product description, the kind of more standard description, when you also have A+ content. And this question is something that there are sort of two reasons why I would say yes, it's worth having that description there. One being is that we all know Amazon sometimes behaves strangely, things don't work, things don't appear the way they're supposed to be. And so even if you have A+ content, it's good to have a backup there. So in case for whatever reason something happens to your A+ content, whether it's a glitch on Amazon's side or something else, you still have a product description there so that you're making sure to share all of the necessary information that a customer would need to know. However, your product description does also have some influence on indexing. And since your A+ content doesn't get indexed by Amazon, at least not right now, then your product description can be a place to incorporate some of those other keywords that you may not have space for elsewhere in your listing. So that's really, there's two reasons why it's worth including that. And it's something that a lot of people, if they have already been selling and then you get A+ content, you know, you don't need to necessarily rewrite your product description in that case. But if you're launching a new product straight as an A+ listing, then this is something that you would want to consider doing. And I would encourage you, some people will choose to just make this another dumping ground for keywords without giving any thought to what it looks like from the customer's perspective. I would say don't do that. First of all, some listings, the product description is still visible when you have the A+ content. So in that case, that's just not going to look good. And then again, as we spoke about, if for whatever reason there's an issue with your A+ content, then you run the risk of having this very odd looking, unprofessional description in its place. Vadim, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Emma.
Cool. So the next space and sort of thinking about how the customer is going through your listing. So we have the title, and then another place that often gets overlooked is your images. And I won't go into your main image because there are a lot of rules that you need to follow in order to be compliant with Amazon's terms of service. However, I am going to be speaking about the other images in your listing, whether those are your product listing images or in your A+ content. And this quote, I love it because I think so often people are, when they are choosing their images or working with a designer, they're not necessarily thinking about how the customer is going to interpret the photos that they're seeing. So there are always two people in every picture, the photographer and the viewer. So you and your designer are the photographer in this case, and the viewer is your customer. And it's very important that no matter who looks at your photo, that everybody is going to be getting the message that you want them to get. And you don't want to leave that up to chance or allow the customer to interpret the photo in whichever way they want to. So let's all take a moment and look at this picture. We see there's a group of people walking in a beautiful mountainous landscape. And perhaps I look at this photo and I start thinking about how beautiful of a day it is outside and how much I can't wait to take my dog on a walk later once the work day is over. So that's my takeaway from this photo. But maybe some of you are looking at this and remembering the skiing trip that you took with your family 5 years ago, or that trip that you had to cancel this spring because of COVID, or that you who knows, your mind can just go so many different places with a photo like this. And this could be a really great sales tool, but without any text there, we're all left to interpret it in the way that we want to. And it's possible that none of us are interpreting this photo in the way that the seller intended it to be interpreted. So using words to supercharge your photos and make them really powerful sales tools is a very underutilized technique that can really help you capture more sales. So thinking about who's looking at your photos, there are people that are going to be looking from top to bottom of your listing, analyzing every single thing that's on your page. But there are also people that are very casual shoppers. Perhaps they're on their phone. And so they're going to look at the photos, they're going to look at the reviews, and they may not look at much else. So in both cases, your photos can be a great way to not only communicate the key benefits that somebody needs to understand to ensure that your product is a good fit for their needs, but they can also be a great way to help get people excited about your product. So if we look at these photos on the right-hand side from KitchenAid, which this is a pretty expensive kitchen tool, and the first two photos are showing these delicious baked goods that people can make with their KitchenAid. And that's typically what people are thinking about making when they're buying a tool like this. But then on the bottom right-hand side, we have a photo of an attachment. And this is a spiralizer that essentially turns vegetables into noodles shapes. So it's good for people that are on the keto diet or maybe want to feel a little bit less guilty after making a bunch of pies and cupcakes. And so if I'm just a customer that's casually looking at these photos on this product listing, I may see that spiralizer attachment and assume that that comes with the product because there's no text here. There's nothing to tell me one way or the other. And I've looked from top to bottom and it doesn't seem to actually come with it because I would assume that they would mention it. However, if I'm just a customer browsing, I have no reason to think otherwise. And I may get this product home, open it up, see that it doesn't come with a spiralizer and feel really disappointed. Maybe I'll leave a bad review. Maybe I'll send it back. Maybe I won't do anything, but either way, it's not creating a positive customer experience. However, if KitchenAid would have utilized a little bit of text in that image to either talk about this attachment specifically or some of their other attachments more generally, then it would help to align expectations. But it would also help to maybe even upsell people to add a few of these attachments into their shopping cart. Even better if they, in their A+ content, which they're not doing, if they had a standard comparison chart module that showed and linked to some of the top attachments, making it even easier for people to go click on those attachments and add them to their cart. Because if they're already spending over $400 on a tool like this, then an attachment that's $50 or $100 suddenly doesn't feel like a big expense. When you're thinking about using text and images, you want to think about using as few words as possible. So I see a lot of times people will make these very busy infographics with a lot of text, maybe even, part of an image is a photo of one thing and text about that, and part of the image is a photo about another thing and text about that, and it can start to look really crowded and really busy and confusing for the eyes. So you want to make sure that each photo has a clear focus and that you're using as few words as possible so that somebody can look at the image, read the words without having to make any extra effort, and easily understand exactly what it is that you're trying to communicate. They shouldn't have to zoom in to read it, whether on mobile or on desktop. And so, again, you're going to have to use as few words as possible. Think about when you can evoke emotion. So whether that's getting people excited to taste the food that you're making, or to encourage them that this is something that can also help them uphold their healthy diet when they're not making sweet indulgences. Those are all things that you want to be considering, emphasizing the benefits of the product that you're going to be speaking about in other parts of your listing. And it can also be a great way to clarify points of confusion, because sometimes text on its own cannot explain things clearly enough, but also images, when you just have a picture of something, it's not immediately clear what it is that you're trying to demonstrate. And so by combining photos and text together, you can help to really clarify something that these two things can't do very easily on their own. And then of course, the last, but certainly not most important, is it allows you to control the message of the picture so that no matter who's looking at it, everybody is getting the same idea. So if we go back to that photo that I showed just a moment ago, with this little bit of text, what you may notice, or you may not, but within the context of a whole listing, it would become obvious, is that one of these people is carrying a water bottle. And so even though this photo is not making the water bottle the central focus of the image, it is helping to tell a story about what this water bottle can do for you and how it can fit into your active outdoor lifestyle, and helps to build excitement and interest in not just the product itself, but all of the things that they can do with this product in their possession. And so that's where imagery and text together can be particularly powerful. So we've talked about SEO, we've talked about imagery. Let's really dive into understanding who your customers are, because I think so often when you're sitting down to create any piece of marketing, whether it's your packaging or even doing product research, there's not enough emphasis put on really understanding your customers. And that is so vital when you want to be standing out in a marketplace like Amazon, which has many competitors, and most likely for the majority of you, you're selling a product that is nearly identical, maybe even manufactured at the exact same place as many of your competitors. And so this piece of understanding who your customers are becomes even more important if you want to really differentiate yourself in a way that will get you the results that you're after. So let's look at two examples here. On the left, we have Melita. They are a coffee company that's been around for over 100 years. They are a pretty established brand here in the United States. You can find them on most grocery store shelves. This is a high caffeine coffee of theirs. And on the right, we have Black Rifle Coffee Company. This coffee is an e-commerce coffee brand, and they have achieved a lot of success selling on Amazon, despite the fact that they have not been around for nearly as long as Melita, and certainly don't have the brand recognition that Melita has. One of the things that I think is really interesting that can happen when you understand your competitors is that you also are able to compete on things beyond just price. Because if you're copying your competitors and your listings look identical and your pictures look identical and everything looks identical, then all that customers have to go off of is price or reviews. So those are really the only two places that you can be competitive. But if you start to dig a little bit deeper and really start to develop who your brand is and get a sense of who your customers are and how to differentiate yourself, then you can begin to compete on other parameters, and that even allows you to charge more. So Melita, they are selling their coffee for 13 ounces at $7.99. The Black Rifle Coffee Company is selling 12 ounces for $16.99. So they are charging more than double for what is essentially the same thing. They're both high caffeine coffees. And even if Black Rifle's manufacturing costs and raw materials cost a little bit more, it's a lot of their price is also building in the fact that they've done a fantastic job with identifying who their target customers are. So on the left, you look at Melita, and it looks okay. They're doing a lot of the things that I like to see in a listing. So they're using the all caps headers for the bullets, which is a great way to give people an easy way to navigate your bullets and find the information that they need to know in order to make an informed purchase. However, all of their text is very much focused on them, and it's just lacking in anything that's interesting, exciting, or that sets them apart. It feels bland. And this is a high caffeine coffee. So people looking for coffee that has more caffeine than the average coffee, they're probably a pretty intense group of people. And I think that adjusting this language to make it more suitable to those types of customers, they'd be able to have a better chance at competing. Now, on the right-hand side, Black Rifle Coffee Company is actually doing some things that I wouldn't recommend. Their bullets are way longer than what I would encourage. They're using emojis, which I strongly discourage. However, they're able to get away with it, and they're able to get away with it because they have a really clear sense of their customers. So Black Rifle Coffee Company is a veteran-owned coffee company, and you can see throughout even just their first two bullets, both with the emojis that they're using and the language that they're using, is they're making that front and center in everything that they share. It's not just about the coffee. It is really about creating an experience for customers to buy into. And a lot of people are excited about a veteran-owned business, and they like the fact that this company is standing behind the military and law enforcement. And what's interesting is that not everybody would be so bold to take a stand like that, because by saying that you're supporting the military and law enforcement, there are also a lot of people that are not going to like that and are not going to want to support a business like that. So they are clear about who their customers are, but they're also clear about who their customers aren't. And that can be really scary to do, especially when you're just starting a business. But I see businesses of all sizes making this mistake. And saying that you want to sell to everybody is a really great way to sell to nobody, because it just means that you're going to look much more like Melita, where it can look pretty, but there's nothing there that's really setting you apart. And then you're just competing on price, and you and your competitors are going to drive each other down, and it's not something that you can leverage into more than this. So let's look at the A+ content, or what used to be called EBC. Melita's A+ content looks nice. However, we could replace Melita here with any other coffee company's brand, and it would probably seem the same. There's nothing here that's distinctive about them. In their bullets, they were actually talking about how they created the coffee filter. That's really cool. They are obviously, they've been at the forefront of the coffee industry for a very long time, and going into some of those details and their commitment to helping create the best coffee experience possible, maybe even having some pictures of the original coffee filters or something like that, could be really interesting. But instead, they're just creating this very generic A+ content that is doing nothing to help get people excited about this coffee specifically or about their brand more generally. Black Rifle Coffee Company is doing something very interesting. There is only one module here about their coffee blend. Everything else is about their brand. And again, it's really reiterating the fact that they are a veteran-owned business. And you'll see that in the imagery, everybody's wearing the merchandise. So from the hats to the shirts to the mug, I think even the water bottle, all the pictures that you're seeing, people are wearing this Black Rifle Coffee Company merchandise. And so it's really helping to establish not just this as a source for great coffee, but as something bigger that people can be a part of. And it's really helping to cultivate that in a way that makes it stand out. So people are primed to even have a better experience of the coffee because they are so excited about what this brand is doing. And this is also the type of marketing that's going to make people eager to tell other people about this coffee company and to buy it for their friends and family. So this is something that isn't just invested in helping make a one-time sale, but is really working to create a long-term relationship with their customers so that they're not going to go on Amazon and search high caffeine coffee the next time they need coffee. They're going to search Black Rifle Coffee Company. And that's very powerful. And it's something that can be challenging to do. But when you do that, you can see a lot of positive results. And then it also puts you in a much better position if you ever want to expand beyond Amazon, whether having your own website on Shopify or whatever other platform, selling on Walmart and retail. All of those things will be much more within your reach by doing this. And something else that's really important to consider is they're being very authentic. So they haven't created a story that didn't exist. They're just telling their story. And a lot of times I find that people feel like they don't have a story to tell, and so they think they need to make something up. And making something up is a great way to alienate your customers and to turn them away, because it's very obvious when a company is making up a story. It typically goes something along the lines of, we were looking for this product, nothing like it existed on the market, so we made it ourselves. And there may be truth to that in what you're doing, but you don't have to, your story doesn't just have to be about what already happened. Your brand story can also be about the future that you're wanting to create. So don't feel limited when you're thinking about these things, or not even just limited, but fearful that you don't have something that's as engaging as Black Rifle Coffee Company. You probably do have something that you're strongly committed to, even if you don't realize it. And so doing some of this deeper work of getting to know who your customers are, and then also, as we'll discuss, getting to know who your brand is so important for really building a business that is going to last for the long run. Now, we were talking sort of big concept here. We're going to go a little bit smaller again on this one. Mind your P's and Q's. This expression essentially refers to be on your best behavior. And in this case, what I'm talking about is attention to detail. So everything from making sure that you have the very best photos that you can, to text that is perfect. Spelling errors, awkward phrasing, poor keyword utilization, all can create openings for your customers to lose trust in you as a business. And that is something that's very difficult to create and almost impossible to restore once it's broken, particularly online, because you don't have the ability to interact with people directly. So in this example, and this is a little bit of an extreme example, but I see mistakes all the time, even from large brands. And you really want to be careful about it, because there are more and more stories that have come out over the last couple of years, and they're not going away, of stories of people buying counterfeit goods, of products that didn't meet proper safety standards. And so customers are a little bit more attentive than they used to be. And these types of errors may signal to them that your product is not as high of quality as you're saying it is, or that there may be something here that would make them maybe better to purchase from your competitors instead. So all of these underlines are either just errors or awkward phrasing. And then at the bottom, fortunately, this isn't something that seems to be as popular as it used to be, but you'll see at the bottom, they're mentioning that a proportion of the sales are going to help save stray dogs. Don't do this. If you have a philanthropic organization that you are donating a percentage of your sales to, that's great. But if you don't, and you're just trying to use that as a sales tactic, people will see right through it as a cheap attempt at manipulation, and it's not going to help you in any way whatsoever. So if you have an organization you're donating to, mention the name of the organization, share why that's something that's important to you, rather than just sort of throwing it in as an afterthought, really trying to push hard on that sale. So read it out loud. Ask yourself if it makes sense. Ask other people if it makes sense. And there are lots of free tools like Grammarly that you can use to do basic grammar checks, but also using the people around you to make sure that they understand everything. Because one piece that we can forget when we are doing product research and development, and you're spending weeks or months or even years developing a product, you're learning all of the terminology and all of the things that you need to know about that particular space, but your customers might not understand all of those things. So you want to make sure that the language that you're using is an appropriate fit for the customers that you're selling to. So don't assume that they know what that word means. Make sure to check and see if an average person would understand what that means, with the exception being that if you are selling a professional product, then it is appropriate and encouraged to use the more technical language, because if you're selling a professional product to a plumber or an electrician or an engineer and you're not using the correct terminology, then they may see that as a sign that you are not the professional tool that you're saying you are. So next, flip-flop your features. Don't tell them what it is, but rather why they need it. When people don't have a lot of experience writing about products, it's natural to just go into describing the product, the color, the size, the materials, and it's a very difficult thing to even notice that you're doing. However, people don't buy products for those features. They're buying it for the benefits. They're buying it because they think this product is going to solve a particular problem that they have, whatever problem it was that made them go to Google or Amazon in the first place. And so you want to make sure that you're making it very clear to customers what that benefit is. So let's look at this grass-fed keto creamer. So this is a protein and fat creamer that people can mix into their coffee if they are doing the keto diet. The first bullet is talking about premium grass-fed ingredients. And just in general, actually, before we dive into the first bullet, upon a quick glance, it sort of seems like they're doing what they need to be doing. However, when you look a little bit closer, you realize that they're just giving us a bunch of features of this product, and they're really not making any effort to help us understand why these features are so important. So the first bullet is talking about premium grass-fed ingredients. And it's possible that some customers will look at this and will instantly understand why grass-fed ingredients are better than non-grass-fed ingredients. But there are also probably a lot of people that are looking at this and don't know, or they know, but it's not instantly available to their mind. And remember, while some people will be carefully reading every single word, a lot of other people are skimming. And so you don't want to make them have to use any extra effort to understand what it is that you're trying to say. And so if you want to make sure that people get your message, you have to say it directly. So there are a few reasons that people might be interested in grass-fed ingredients. There's the humanitarian side in wanting, because grass-fed animals typically are treated better and live a happier life. So there's that element of things, which they're not addressing at all. However, grass-fed dairy products also are healthier. They have different nutrients in them that don't exist in the same levels or at all with some of them in non-grass-fed dairy. But there's no mention of that at all. Instead, all they're saying is it's grass-fed and you'll feel great because of it. And if they could really help us understand what the benefits of grass-fed are, it would go a long way to making a much more convincing product description. Because also the price of this product is $39.99. So it's substantially more expensive than a lot of their competitors. And this quality of ingredients piece is probably a big reason why. So it's even more important that they help people understand why spending more money for higher quality ingredients is so important. And their A+ content really doesn't do any better of a job than that. It's very lazy. It's not helping to give more sense of why this product is so great. It even ignores a lot of the things that people may care about with a product like this. For example, how it tastes and how smoothly it may mix into coffee that you're putting it in. They mention that it's in 3 flavors, but they don't say what those flavors are. Again, going back to that module that I love, the standard comparison chart that I mentioned earlier, this listing would really benefit from incorporating that, so that they would actually show off the 3 flavors, help to communicate some of the key benefits, and then allow people to click directly into those other flavors if it's something that they're interested in. Finding the benefits of a feature can be a little bit tricky. So every time you want to write about something in relationship to your product, ask yourself, why does this matter? And then keep asking why until you feel really clear that you have honed in on that emotional element that people are really seeking in a product like yours. And then it's not that you want to ignore the features, because those can be very important, like the materials or the ingredients. Those are things that people care about, but you can use those features to actually support the claims that you're making with your benefits, so that they're working together. So they still can find the information that they need to find, but you're also engaging them on an emotional level and helping them to get excited about the better life that you can help them achieve through this particular product that you're trying to help them purchase. So this question seemed to be the most fitting at this stage in the presentation, which is essentially, when are you done with listing optimization? And I would include that to also ask the question, how often should you be doing listing optimization? And I think it's something really important that it doesn't get spoken about enough, which is listing optimization isn't something that you just do once and never have to do again. It's something that you want to be constantly looking at and thinking about. However, depending upon the product that you're selling and the category that you're in, the frequency in which you're doing that may differ. So some people may have a product and seasonally they need to be updating the listing because it's utilized in different ways. Whereas other people, it's more like, let's go back to the keto product we were just talking about. A few years ago, nobody knew what the keto diet was. And so to sell a product like this, instead of talking about the keto diet, they may have been talking about the paleo diet, because that was much more popular than they may have been talking about low carb, or the, the South Beach diet, I think, is also high fat and low carbohydrate. So there were some other sort of trendier diets that people don't speak about as much anymore that were popular a few years ago. And so the search habits and the keywords that people were using for a product like this a few years ago would have been very different than the keywords that you can find now, because now the keto diet is much more mainstream. People are searching for a much wider variety of products. And so that seller, if they were selling 3 years ago, would want to be constantly taking a look at the search habits of people and making sure that they are using the most relevant keywords in their listing, and also that they're continuing to update their marketing materials to stay fresh and relevant to what people care about now. And then the other piece is, a lot of times when you do a really good job, your competitors will copy you. And so a lot of the top sellers from time to time are needing to re-optimize their listings just to continue to maintain their advantage. So it's not really something that ever stops. I'm not saying that you need to be constantly rewriting your listing from top to bottom, but it is something that you want to be thinking about and observing and making sure that your keywords are fitting to the trends and that you're addressing the things that people care about. So let's say you're selling your product for a year, and all of a sudden people are asking all of these questions, we'll just continue on with this keto creamer that we've been speaking about. So that they've been selling their product, and all of a sudden tons of people are asking if it's grass-fed, and let's say that they didn't have that bullet there. So suddenly something's indicating that people are caring not just about that this has enough fat and doesn't have sugar in it, but they want to know about the quality of the ingredients that are in it. And that wasn't really something that people cared about up until then. So getting that sort of feedback, if enough people are asking those questions and it seems like that's something that's important for people to know, then it would be worthwhile to consider how can you incorporate that into your listing so that you're addressing that and helping people feel confident and not have to go searching for the answer, but can find it right there front and center. So let's just do a quick recap of everything. And then if you have any questions, we can get into those. So the e-commerce copy fundamentals. First, you want to make sure that you have a really thoughtful, well-researched keyword strategy. So as we spoke about, don't just take the top keywords and call it a day. Dig in a little bit deeper, get analytical, and make sure that you're selecting the keywords that are going to be most relevant to your product and that you're going to be able to compete on. Set up everything for maximum skimmability. So we all have certain buying criteria that we need to fulfill when we're looking for a particular product. And you want to make it as easy as possible for customers to find that information. So making sure that you're keeping your bullets at a very digestible length. Our business, we try to keep bullets right around 200 characters per bullet, and unless the category requires even shorter than that. If you start to get much longer than 200 characters, not only may you minimize your opportunity to index for certain words, but you're also creating very large pieces of text that are very overwhelming to the eyes and can be difficult to find the information that you need. Something else that you want to consider is making sure that every single bullet is focused on one thing. So you have 5 bullets, so you have 5 main points that you can make. You shouldn't take a bullet and start off talking about one thing and halfway through or in the last sentence talk about something totally different. Because if we're going to this idea of skimmability and that people are going to be kind of just glancing at different things, and let's say there's a really important piece of information that they need to know, and it's in the last sentence of the 4th bullet, and the beginning of the 4th bullet had nothing to do with that. The likelihood of them finding that piece of information is almost 0. So you should make it as easy as possible for people to find that information, both in how you organize it and in making sure that you're really limiting yourself to how you present that information and that you're not using any extra words that aren't helping to push that sale forward. Making every word count. Being very benefit forward and then supporting with details. Building trust. So not only with trust are things like spelling and grammar and high quality images important, but something else to consider is a lot of people want to use this really exaggerated language when they're talking about their products. So it's the best at this. It's the most innovative at this that's ever come to the market. And unless you can truly say that and justify why that's the case, you shouldn't say it, because all you're doing is you're establishing false expectations that you're not going to be able to uphold. So what's going to happen? Potential negative reviews, returns, negative customer experience, and that's not good for creating long-term success. So you want to be thinking about how can you not just make this sale, but how can you help create a good customer experience and a happy customer that will want to keep your product, hopefully leave a positive review, even better, tell their friends about it, or look and see what other products that you are selling. But you're not going to be able to achieve any of those things if you're just trying to make a sale at any cost and maybe even exaggerating how great your product truly is. Making sure that you're very customer centric. So thinking about what the customer cares about, not what you care about. A lot of times we can get caught up in how great this particular element is, or if you have a little freebie, I understand that that can be something that you want to emphasize, but a lot of times that's not why somebody's buying your product. And so you have to differentiate between what the customer really needs to know to make a purchasing decision and what may be something that would excite them to be surprised about even. So if you're including something that's free, but it's just a small gift, maybe let them be surprised about that when they open the box, instead of putting all of this focus on it in your copy when it really is not doing anything to make the customer more interested in your product. And then elevate with imagery. So thinking about how you can use imagery and text together in a meaningful way that's really going to spark people's interests. And then when you've done all of that, you want to keep diving deep. So we have two examples here. On the left is Intex. They are a large company. You can buy them in Walmart and all sorts of retail locations. And as you'll see, they're selling pretty decently online. At the time that I was pulling in these images, they were number 35 in toys and games. And on the right, we have Splash Easy. This is a product that we helped launch in last year. And they spent most of last year in the top 100 toys and games. And when I was taking this screenshot, they were number 4 in toys and games. And they've spent all summer in the top 100. So they are doing really well. They are not a well-known brand, but they are experiencing a lot of success. I think that this quote is really important. We touched on it a little bit earlier, but it's worth really giving some consideration. Maybe even something to think about after we're done with this presentation. But the moment you recognize that not everyone could or should buy your product or services, you will sell more to those who can and should buy. So exactly what we were talking about in saying that if you're just trying to sell to everybody, then you're going to sell to nobody. And Zig Ziglar was one of the top salespeople, very successful man, and this couldn't be more true today than it was when he first spoke these words, and it's something to really give some thought to. So don't just try to copy your competitors. Don't just try to make it seem like your product is the best fit for everybody under the sun. Instead, get very thoughtful about who it is that you're really trying to sell to and how you can actually differentiate yourself instead of just blending in on the search results page. On the left, here's Intex. They are providing very minimal information. On the right, we have Splash Easy. You'll see they have, as we spoke about, these all caps headers for the bullets, which are really great. But what they're doing here, fundamentally, these products are very similar. They're both inflatable pool toys to help young children cool off and be outside during the summer. However, Splash Easy has taken a very thoughtful approach to making their product not simply something that is another inflatable toy, but they're focused on two main things. One is safety. So it doesn't have a lot of water in it. It's kind of more like a sprinkler that sprays out. So it's safer for younger children and the risk of drowning is much lower. But also they are taking on this educational idea. So they're really targeting parents that are wanting to make sure that every single thing that they're doing is helping to further their child's development. And in doing so, they have achieved phenomenal success. Here is Intex's A+ content. So again, leaving a lot to be desired. And here's Splash Easy. We have some nice lifestyle images of people interacting with the toy, speaking about the different benefits that you and your child can both enjoy by interacting with it. And you'll see how, despite the fact that they are not a well-known brand, they have been able to really carve out a sort of whole new product category around these concepts, and they've done that very successfully. So I understand that was a lot, the more curious you can get about your customers, about your competitors, and about who you are as a brand, the better you'll be able to do with all of these things that we've spoken about. So if you're not sure how to do that, I've put together a free worksheet. You can open the camera on your phone and hold it out to scan this QR code, and that'll take you to a place to put in your details to receive that form. Or you can go to marketingbyemma.com/Amazonim and fill out the details that way. So please do that. It's full of questions for you to think about, and it doesn't matter what stage you are in your business, whether you're just in the concept stage and you don't even have a product that you've chosen yet, or you have a large product catalog. These are really important questions, not just to think about once and never think about again, but to continue to explore and think about and ask yourself as you grow your business and as you work towards creating the business that you want to have. Whew. I hope I didn't overwhelm you with all of that information. If you have questions, please feel free to go to our website, marketingbyemma.com, send me an email, reach out via phone. That phone is also available on WhatsApp. So you can connect at that phone number on WhatsApp as well. We're on Facebook. We do also offer a free listing analysis. So if you would like for us to take a look at your listing, we would be happy to do so and give you some free feedback about things that you may want to consider doing to make your listing stronger. And then of course, if there's anything that we can do to help you, if you'd like our help writing your listing, we would definitely love to do that.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you. Were there any other questions?
Everybody is just writing thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. I hope that people got some good value out of it. And if you have questions that pop up after this, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you very much, Emma.
Thank you.
It was very interesting, and I'm sure that the people here liked it. So thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Good night. Thank you for coming.
Bye. Thank you.